everyone, and welcome back to the United Star. I'm Prasham and I'm joined by Jack from Red Manx TV. The links are in the description.
Hello.
Do give him a subscribe and a follow. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about a major problem in our team because this man has been consistently solid and he's consistently shown up every single time we've asked him to. Marcus Rashford is going to be out till October. It seems it may even take longer with recovery and everything since he is undergoing much needed surgery. So what we're going to do is dissect what Manchester United can do to adopt to this hole that his absence will leave in the team. I've got Jack with me in order to break this thing down tactically and positionally as well. So Jack, welcome, and I'm going to ask you straight away: do you think we'll at all change the formation to maybe up front two with Mason Greenwood and Edinson Cavani to account for the absence of Marcus?
Potentially, but I don't really see that happening because, of course, you've got Sancho now coming into the club. You've got Martial there, who may be given another opportunity on the left. So I think we may either stick with the same formation that we have been playing or maybe revert to a 4-3-3, which I think he might do. To start the season, we're playing Martial on the left, of course, Sancho on the right, then either Cavani or Mason Greenwood up front. That's the most likely thing that I see happening. But I don't know what you think. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will probably go with that. I don't think having two up front will benefit us as a team, in my opinion. I think he'd rather have, of course, wingers and then, go with that. So what do you think? I'm not really too sure on that, but 4-3-3.
I think there are two things to it. I think I agree with you that the initial reports are, of course, coming out that there are 4-3-3. The other thing is, I don't think tactically he'd want to play one formation for 2 months and then change to something else later on, because we know that once Marcus is back, of course, he will be in the team. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And his best position is on down that left-hand side. So I am quite excited. In fact, looking forward, I'm quite excited to see Marcus on the left and Jadon on the right. And I think that adds a lot to our attack as well. So I do agree with you that I don't think he's going to change formation. But I think it is an interesting avenue that could be explored because he has played the diamond in the past. Because he's done that.
Interesting thing.
So he could possibly play Paul Pogba on the left, maybe Jadon Sancho on the right and Bruno in the hole, with two up front. You never know. Or you can even play Sancho in the number 10 position with Bruno and McTominay playing, right and left. So I think it is an interesting avenue. Maybe he tries, if he goes for a diamond, I think it could work in some of the games. But I do think on a whole, in the beginning of the season, he will stick to what we want to do throughout the season. But you mentioned one combination where you said Martial will play on the left and Sancho on the right, which you think is most likely. Now, obviously, in terms of players, that would seem the most natural sort of solution to our problem. You think that Martial is a left-sided sort of winger. He plays there, and that's his favorite position and his best position. So do you think that is the best way forward?
I probably would say that's probably the best way forward because we've seen Martial up front last season, and to be fair, he didn't really have a great season, to be fair, did he? Of course, that injury didn't help him, but I think if he can get some minutes in pre-season, which, maybe in the next couple of games he gets involved alongside Donny van der Beek, hopefully, then I think he will be slotted in on the left because I don't see him taking over Cavani or taking over Greenwood as if Greenwood plays striker. I don't think, the pre-season games that have been so far, he hasn't looked very good in that number 9 position. So, I do think Martial will probably play left wing if he does get into the team at the start of the season. That looks the more likely thing to me, with Sancho on the right and then, of course, Cavani up front. I do think that's 99% sure that's the front three we'll go with against Leeds. But, that's what I think on that one.
But Jack, we already know that Martial is sort of a very inconsistent player. And but also at the same time, he's that kind of a player. If he gets on a roll, he can, just keep on continuing a good sort of performance. So what happens if, Martial is not good in the first couple of games? Then are we found wanting a little bit with him? Do you stick with him? Because there's no guarantee with Martial. He comes in, he checks out in the middle of games. You don't know what he's going to give. So what would you say to that?
So if he does come in, if he does start, and it's the same Martial as last season, not looking good, doesn't want to take on players, poor form, then maybe you might think of giving Dan James a chance on that left. Or maybe, even Diallo. I don't think he will play Diallo because I don't think he'll get enough game time at Manchester United. I think he's a player that needs to go out on loan. So if Martial comes in, doesn't have a few good games, fans will get on his back. And then I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might change around things with giving Daniel James a chance. As you've seen, with Daniel James, it's a thing about consistency, and his knowledge of the game is not there, in my opinion. For Daniel James, I think he should go out on loan. But I can see them two switching it up maybe if Martial is not playing well.
Right. And also, Jack, you said the first game against Leeds, the front three you think that will go in Sancho, Cavani and Martial.
Yeah.
That is actually where I'd want to ask you, isn't those kind of games best suited to play a Dan James on the left? Because I think with Rashford out, that position is not on lockdown really. Nobody really can say that that's my position in the United team apart from Marcus. So with him gone, would you then play Dan James in games such as Leeds or against bigger teams where his work rate will be important?
I think it's a very high chance that he might play Daniel James against Leeds. We saw him play against Leeds last season. I think he played twice against Leeds. I'm not too sure on that, if I'm correct on that. But to get behind the lines, I think Daniel James could be a good selection for Leeds. But is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going to go with that? There's a very high chance he could. So it's really interesting to know what the team will be starting that Leeds game, because you could play Martial. That's the most likely one at the moment. But with Dan James and his pace and the way Leeds play, Daniel James could also be within a shot in getting that starting position. So that's a really, really interesting call as well. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it would be a thing the fans are happy with if Daniel James plays, but I think it could benefit Manchester United for that Leeds game.
I think when I look at Martial and Dan James and I think of that left wing position, what I think of is with Martial, you're going to get inconsistent brilliance. If Martial turns up, he can destroy any team in the Premier League on his day. With Dan James, you know exactly what you're going to get. You know that he's going to run his socks off for the entire 90 minutes or whatever time he's out there for. He'll try to put in crosses. He did well for Wales, in fact, in putting in crosses. If he can do that to Cavani, Cavani will probably get a goal or two. But you know what James is all about. So I think I do understand your point where fans would be annoyed when you play Dan James, because he's obviously, to put it mildly, he's a very limited player. So I do understand where you come from, but I think Dan James also in a sense gives you that consistency where you know that, this is what you'll get. With Martial, you're never sure what happens. Yeah. So actually, I want to ask you about this thing that I've been thinking of. Do you think it's at all possible that Oli might, because Jadon Sancho has played on the left before, and Mason Greenwood has played through the right quite often last season as well. So do you at all think it's possible that Sancho plays on the left and Mason plays on the right? Because that would give Mason a good 2 months of game time as well, which I feel is necessary for his development.
Yeah, especially for Mason, of course, for last season when he came in, of course, coming back from that injury he had. He played the last couple of games at the end of the season. He looked good. So I think Mason Greenwood has a strong chance of starting this game. But for Jadon Sancho on the left, does he want to play there? I'm not really too sure at the moment. We'll have to see what happens on that. But you could potentially play Sancho on the left. Of course, Greenwood, as you said, and up front Cavani. And, that leaves Martial and Dan James in the squad. And a lot of people are expecting one of them to play. So, there's three things you can do here. You can either play what you just said with, of course, Jadon Sancho on the left, Cavani up front, and then, of course, Mason Greenwood on the right. Or you can play Martial on the left, Cavani up front, and, of course, Jadon on the right. You've got like 2 or 3 options of front forwards you can go with. So the most likely, in my opinion, would probably be Jadon Sancho on the right, Martial on the left, and up front Cavani. But I would be really excited to see Jadon Sancho on the left and see how it works out with Mason Greenwood on the right and Cavani up front. I think those three could definitely develop a partnership while Marcus is gone, while Martial's not in the squad. And I think we could probably see how that goes. Because, of course, as you said, Marcus Rashford probably will come straight back into the squad, but we don't know that yet. It really does depend on how well the front three play. So, I do think maybe that's a possibility. We're playing Jadon Sancho on the left. He can play 3 positions up front. So, but the most likely, in my opinion, would be him on the right, Martial on the left, or Dan James on the left, and up front Cavani.
And I kind of agree with you when you say I think it's most likely that either Martial or possibly Dan James for a few games here and there will start on the left. There are two reasons I agree with you. Is one that Sancho is obviously coming in and coming back to England after his sort of obviously youth stint with City. He's coming back to England and it will take some time for him to get adjusted as well. So if we play him on the left and then move him to the right, it might, sort of mess his game up a little bit, mess his confidence up. So it might be beneficial to just give him a full run through the right for the entire season and let him settle into what he has to do. And the other thing I feel is that if Sancho plays on the left and Mason plays on the right, I think what does happen is that we are stuck with the same problem we've been having where we don't have a natural right winger and we cannot stretch that side of the field. And that will just be a repeat of next sort of last season and the season before that and the season when Ronaldo left. Since then, it's just going to be the same thing where we're not going to have anyone on the right. So I do agree with you in that sense. And while I do want to see Mason play more minutes, I think he is going to have to sort of bide his time. Or maybe you put Mason out on the left for a few games, considering he can play with both feet. But I don't think that's a viable option. So I think Mason and Cavani will have to sort of, share game time, and that will be his sort of preferred position. There is a far field option, and I don't know what this player's fate is going to be at Manchester United, but I do think he is going to be there at the start of the season, which is Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba has been played on the left, and he was played on the left in the final as well. Is that at all something Oli might consider if Pogba is yet there to play him there in a few games on that left-hand side? Seems to like that role. You don't push Marcus Rashford out of position because he's not there. Do you think that option might be taken?
Personally, he will start or he will play on the left if he signs a new contract. Of course, we don't know really what's going on yet. Pogba, do we? Is man reports that 350k contract coming out? I don't know if that's true yet. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I do think Pogba will stay in the end. I don't think anyone will pay over 50 million for him and then pay his wages. So for Pogba on the left, I don't think it's an option fans will like playing Pogba on the left. I think we need him much more forward. I agree with that. But we need him in that natural position and that mid position where hopefully someone we can get in a CDM to cover for him. Because as you saw for France in the national team, Kante just covered Pogba so well, and that allowed Pogba to go forward and be the Pogba we know he can be, create chances, put over that long ball. And Manchester United haven't really played Pogba in the right positions. You played him on the left, played him CDM. So I think if we're gonna change it up next season, we need to get Pogba more forward. Don't get him on the left. Leave that to someone like Martial, James, or Rashford to play, or Sancho even, and get Pogba playing where he wants to play, getting creative, getting playing for the form he can play with, and that's when I think we can get the best out of Pogba.
Right, absolutely, I agree with you. So I think both of us are more or less in agreement that Martial, Cavani, and Sancho are the sort of likely starters. I do think that James might have a part to play over the 2 months to give Martial rest as well and to account for his inconsistency. And there will be a few Champions League games as well. We yet don't know who will be facing in those games. So that will also be an interesting sort of avenue to explore. But I think it's a great opportunity for someone like a Martial to get in form, because once Rashford is back, it can add a lot of bench strength to our team. So let's see what happens. Thank you so much, Jack, for doing this. I think it was brilliant in terms of the way we broke this down.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully the viewers were able to take something away from that. And do subscribe, guys, to Jack's channel, the Red Manx TV. We put the link, we've tagged him as well. So subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. We'll see you all soon with a lot more content. Bye-bye.